You ever have a moment where reality just cracks? That was me, standing in the middle of my kitchen with the fridge still open, cold air spilling out onto my shins, and my phone screen burning a hole into my brain. The notification had buzzed like any other innocent routine, but the words stopped me cold. Amora Grande Hotel and Spa, $1,438. 92 Las Vegas, Nevada. Couples suite sunset spa for 2-room service. My first thought was, this has to be a mistake. Wrong card. Wrong person. Glitch in the system. Something. Anything. But nope. Right there in the details, our shared credit card. The one we opened 6 months ago. Strictly for wedding planning. And that was the part that made it worse. We had made this joint account to build something together. Book venues, pay deposits, rack up airline miles for the honeymoon. Not this. Not some romantic getaway in the middle of the Nevada desert. I just stood there, staring, trying to make the math work. Madison had flown to Vegas the morning before with her friends. Girls' trip, she'd said. Her tone had been light, even excited. Talking about glitter sashes and cheesy drinks, laughing at how cliché bachelorettes were, but saying she'd let them go all out just this once. And now here I was, staring at a $1,400 charge for a suite and spa booked for 2. My heart started pounding in that dull, muted way, like when you realize you've left your wallet somewhere or see a car swerving toward you in slow motion. Not panic. Not yet. But dread. A slow, creeping dread that starts in your chest and works its way outward. Still, I tried to stay rational. She wasn't the type to cheat. We were engaged. Living together. Planning our future. This had to be something else. Maybe one of her friends had booked the suite with our card by accident. Maybe they all crashed in one big room. Or maybe, couple suite was just the name, not the intent. Grasping at straws, I opened Instagram. I knew she'd be posting. Madison lived online. Stories, reels, carefully filtered photos. She curated everything. From the right lighting on her engagement ring to the perfectly captioned brunch sh*ts. Surely she'd be documenting this weekend too. And she was. A clip started playing. Madison was in the back of a stretch limo, champagne flute in hand, laughing. Her hair done up in curls, wearing a white sash with bride TOB in sparkly lettering. A typical bachelorette vibe. Music blasting, other women squealing in the background. She panned the camera across the group. A few familiar faces from her college crew, one I didn't recognize, and then it froze. Just for a second. She shifted the angle of the phone too far, too fast, and someone's hand flashed into frame. Not one of the girls. Definitely not. It was a man's hand. Large. Tanned. Resting comfortably on her bare knee. It wasn't there long, less than a second before she cut the video. Most people wouldn't have noticed. But I did. And not just because of the hand. Her engagement ring, my grandmother's ring, wasn't on her finger. My breath caught. I watched the story again. Paused it. Zoomed in. Still no ring. I didn't say anything at first. I just stared at the screen like it would start to make sense if I looked hard enough. But it didn't. My mind started racing, spinning scenarios that I didn't want to imagine. Who was the guy? Why was his hand there? And why the hell was she not wearing her ring? After about 15 minutes of looping the story like a detective watching surveillance footage, I texted her, "Hey, weird charge just popped up on our card. Amora Grande in Vegas? Couple suite and spa? Did one of your friends maybe use the wrong card?" Took a while for her to reply. Maybe she was still out, or maybe she was crafting her response. When it came in, it was breezy, too breezy. LOL, yeah, all part of the shared bachelorette chaos face, with tears of joy we're splitting later. Don't stress. I'll sort it when I'm back. Credit card sparkles. No mention of the couple's suite. No explanation about the spa. No clarification. Just brushing it off like it was a group thing. Then I followed up. Something casual, like I hadn't watched the story 10 times. Cool. By the way, who's the guy in the limo with his hand on your leg? Looked like someone got a little too cozy, LOL. Again, the response took longer. Then came the deflection. OMG, haha, that's one of Carly's friends. He's gay. We were just being ridiculous for the story. You know how it is faced with tears of joy. Don't overthink two hearts. Then, without pause, she pivoted, like a magician redirecting your attention to the wrong hand. By the way, have you confirmed with your cousin about the wedding RSVP yet? We're still short on headcount for the rehearsal dinner, and I need to finalize the menu next week. Also, we should check the tux fitting schedule. I know you're slammed at work, but timing's tight. Ring necktie airplane. Just like that, the conversation shifted. Not even an ounce of space left for follow-up. She flooded the texts with wedding logistics, urgent tasks, menu deadlines, guest confirmations, all the things I should be focused on if I wanted to be a good fiancé. The pressure was subtle, but I felt it. The implication was clear. Don't focus on the silly stuff. Focus on us. And for a second, I almost did. Almost. But something about the way she typed, so structured, so rehearsed, made me stop. She knew exactly how to shut down the conversation without ever addressing what was really going on. Not directly. She didn't lie. Not technically. But she definitely didn't tell the truth. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay there in bed, staring at the ceiling, her empty pillow next to me. Her scent was still there. A hint of that new perfume she'd started wearing. Something spicy and expensive. A gift from a friend, she said. Just a sample she didn't want. Except I'd never met this friend. And the scent was always strongest after her late-night workouts. It wasn't just the Vegas charge. It wasn't just the missing ring or the hand in the story. It was all of it. It was the way she kept her phone face down every time. The new passwords she added without telling me. The sudden detox weekends where she'd go completely off-grid. No service, no social, no replies. The shift in her voice when she talked about work. The overly vague workout explanations. The way she dodged every wedding planning conversation unless she was steering it. My mind started connecting dots I didn't want to see. And it terrified me. I thought about calling one of her bridesmaids, just to check in, just to casually ask if there really was a bachelorette itinerary. But I didn't. Something told me not to. Instead, I got up, walked to the living room, and sat in the dark with the TV on mute, just letting the silence stretch. And in that silence, I had to admit something I'd been avoiding for weeks. I didn't trust her anymore. Not fully. Not where it counted. Something was going on. Maybe not yet. Maybe not physically. But the energy, the secrecy, the changes, they weren't nothing. They were the kind of shifts that don't happen unless someone is moving their heart elsewhere. And worst of all, she was good at hiding it. Really good. It's weird how hindsight works. You don't see the red flags when you're standing in front of them. You don't recognize patterns while they're forming. Only when they've already wrapped themselves around your life like ivy, choking the air out of the things you used to love. After that weekend in Vegas, after the sweet charge and the Instagram story and the ring that mysteriously vanished from her hand, I couldn't stop myself. My mind replayed everything from the past few months like scenes in a bad movie I'd been too blind to realize I was starring in. And suddenly, it all started to click. Her phone habits were the first to change. Madison used to leave her phone everywhere. On the kitchen counter while she cooked. On the couch cushions. On the sink while she brushed her teeth. It used to drive me nuts. She'd miss calls or texts and I'd end up relaying them to her. But sometime around February, that changed. Suddenly her phone had a new lock screen. Then a new passcode. Then Face ID only. At first, I didn't think much of it. Privacy, right? Everyone wants their space. But the timing felt off. It wasn't just the lock. It was how she always kept it face down. How she'd slide it into her pocket the second I walked into the room. How she'd lower the brightness when she thought I wasn't looking. She used to play me dumb videos and memes all the time. Now I had to ask twice just to see her screen. I remember one night we were on the couch watching a show. Her phone buzzed once. Then twice. Then again. She peeked at it, smiled a little, then set it face down without saying a word. I didn't ask who it was. I didn't want to come off controlling. But the silence spoke louder than the buzz ever could. And then there were the detox weekends. That started in March. She told me she was doing a mental reset. No screens, no texts, no work, no social. A few of her girlfriends were apparently doing it together. renting a cabin up north and unplugging from the chaos. The first time I supported it, even envied it. She came back Sunday night, tired but relaxed, talking about lakeside journaling and morning yoga. But when I asked to see pictures, she hesitated. "We promised not to post anything," she said. "It was supposed to be sacred." Sacred. That word stuck with me. The next time she went, she didn't even leave me the address of the cabin. "Reception's bad anyway," she said. "And we're barely using phones. Just trust me." I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But something about the way she said it, it didn't sound like someone unplugging from the world. It sounded like someone disappearing. Then came the workouts. At first it was Peloton rides in the living room or early morning runs. Totally normal. Then she joined a boutique gym downtown. Expensive but trendy, and I figured, hey, it's her body, her money. But her sessions started going late. I mean late. Like 3-hour workouts that ended after 10 p.m. She said they did classes, sauna, stretching, smoothies, etc. But every time she came home, her makeup still looked freshly applied. Her clothes looked less like gym wear and more like dress-down date night. And the perfume. She never used to wear much of it. Said it gave her headaches. But now she had a new bottle on her vanity. Something unfamiliar. Sharp, floral, almost musky. Not a scent I'd ever picked out for her. Not anything I remembered from our anniversary dinners or weekend getaways. It was subtle, but once you notice it, you can't unnotice it. It became a signature. One that followed her through the door every time she came back from these workouts. I didn't ask about it at first. Just made a light comment like, "New perfume?" She barely glanced up. "Oh, just a tester from one of the girls." Then she changed the subject. That was the pattern, actually. Deflection. Every time I asked about anything wedding-related, guest lists, budgets, her vows, the officiant, she had a reason to delay the talk. Work was hectic. Her mom was stressing her out. Her bridesmaids were flaky. "Can we just not talk about the wedding for once?" She'd snap. "It's not the only thing in my life." I understood. Planning was stressful. But we were less than 3 months out. And while I was the one calling vendors, confirming bookings, sending deposits, she was avoiding the whole thing like it was jury duty. Then came the cash. Every few weeks, I'd see ATM receipts crumpled in her purse. Not unusual, if we ever used cash. But she was pulling out $200, sometimes $300, always on Fridays or Saturdays, right before colleague meetups or networking mixers. She told me her team was doing a group tab or that the venues were cash only. She worked in marketing. No one in marketing carries wads of cash to a dinner. Once, I went to put something in her car after she ran back inside to grab her scarf. I popped the trunk and saw a blazer. Not hers. A man's jacket, clearly too big for her, slung across a gym bag. It smelled faintly like her new perfume. She claimed it was from her boss. He left it in my car after our pitch meeting. I meant to return it. But why was it in the trunk? Why was there lint roller fuzz on the shoulders like it had been worn recently? Why was she suddenly so nervous? Talking fast. Eyes darting to see if I'd believe her. I did. Or pretended to. Because the truth is, I didn't want to be the guy who accuses his fiancée of cheating without hard proof. That's the kind of thing that K*LLS trust, whether you're right or not. But even without proof, the pieces were fitting together too neatly. And she was slipping. Once, she came home and called me Ethan in passing. I laughed it off. She said she was tired. Ethan was someone from her office, I think. Or maybe not. She never explained. Another time, I caught her whispering into her phone late at night in the hallway. When I walked out of the bedroom, she jumped. Said she was venting to her sister. But the voice I'd heard sounded male. I didn't press. Not then. I just filed it away with all the other strange behaviors piling up like unopened mail. All these things I had ignored or made excuses for. The detox weekends, the gym escapism, the buried ring, the secretive phone behavior, the way she stopped touching me. Not even just S*Zuli. She used to brush my hair back while I made coffee, grab my hand in grocery store lines, put her feet in my lap while watching TV. Now there was space between us. Literal space. coldness. And then there was the Bachelorette story. After Vegas, she came back like nothing had happened. Hugs, gifts from the trip, some cliché souvenir t-shirts for her bridesmaids, a bottle of champagne for us to toast when we do the final tasting. When I brought up the suite again, just casually, just one more time, she gave me the exact same answer. Word for word. We're splitting it later. Like she had rehearsed it. I realized that day, while looking into her eyes, that she wasn't stressed. She was managing me. Like a PR campaign. Calculating what to say, how to say it, when to say nothing. She wasn't confused or overwhelmed. She was methodical. And that realization hit harder than any lie ever could. That was the day I stopped trusting her with the benefit of the doubt. That was the day I started paying attention. There's a moment in every relationship, good or bad, when a line gets crossed and you can't pretend anymore. For me, that moment came with silence. Not a dramatic blow-up or a screaming match, just silence. It was a Thursday. Madison had flown out that morning. She told me it was for a quick follow-up trip with the girls. Bachelorette Part 2, she joked. One last blast before the final countdown. She said it was something Carly and Brittany were planning, that they were going to do it right this time. She smiled, kissed me on the cheek, suitcase in hand, and promised she'd be back Sunday. I asked where they were staying. She said, somewhere off the strip, super chill, and changed the subject. Again. That night, I didn't get a text before bed. Nothing the next morning either. I told myself maybe they were just hungover or off-grid. But when afternoon came and her location still hadn't updated on Find My, and yes, we shared locations ever since a weekend hiking trip 2 years ago, it showed nothing but a generic location not available badge under her name. Still, I waited. I told myself to breathe. She'd pop up soon. She always did. But then I got the second hotel charge. Same card. Same hotel, Amora Grande. Different room this time. Room 3401. Suite level. This one didn't say Bachelorette package. It was booked under a name I didn't recognize, E. Halden. Except I knew that name. It was her middle name and her mother's maiden name. It was the same alias she used when she didn't want spam mail sent to her real accounts. She used it for restaurant reservations when she wanted to sound classier, as she once said. She'd laughed when I asked about it the first time. Everyone has a fake name, right? Now I was staring at a $1,620 charge under that very alias. That was it. That was the moment something snapped. I grabbed my laptop, booked the earliest flight I could, and packed a bag so fast I forgot my toothbrush. I didn't tell her. I didn't tell anyone. I just went. 3 hours later, I was in Vegas. I checked into the Mirage across from Amora Grande, with a clear view of the hotel's south wing and rooftop pool. I sat by the bar, ordered a drink I didn't want, and waited. The next day, I scoped out the pool decks and public spaces. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. Maybe just some kind of presence, some kind of confirmation that I hadn't gone insane. My mind kept switching between you're overreacting and you've waited too long already. But by late afternoon, I found her. She was at a private pool area, roped off, sun low in the sky, music thumping. One of those influencer-wide day parties where everything is curated for people to pretend they aren't posing for pictures. She wore a red dress, off-shoulder, her hair up. I knew that dress. I'd seen it once in our closet, tags still on. There were about 20 people in the area, but I saw her immediately. Not because she stood out, but because of him. Tall guy, maybe mid-30s, dark hair, aviators, strong jaw. Hand on her waist, laughing at something she whispered to him. She leaned in, too close. His hand traced her lower back like he belonged there. They didn't look like people trying to keep things private. They looked like people who didn't think they were being watched. At one point, she ran her hand down his chest and kissed his cheek. He turned, caught her lips. I stood behind a row of cabanas with a half-empty drink in my hand and watched the woman I was supposed to marry melt into someone else's arms like I had never existed. My heart didn't even race. That surprised me the most. No anger, no burst of adrenaline. Just this numb, cold, mechanical sensation. like watching an accident in slow motion and realizing you're the one in the passenger seat. I took out my phone, snapped photos, then switched to video. I followed them discreetly as they left the pool and headed into the hotel through the side entrance. Access bracelets glinted on their wrists as they walked hand in hand. She looked back once, but not toward me, just checking her surroundings, making sure the coast was clear. He kissed her neck while they waited at the elevators. She laughed. The doors opened. They stepped inside. I zoomed in just as the doors closed. Suite level. Room 3401. I knew the room because it matched the charge. I knew the floor because I called the hotel the night before, pretending to be a guest booking a romantic stay. And the clerk let it slip which rooms were available for couples packages. I didn't go up there. I didn't want to become a headline. Instead, I sat in the hotel cafe for another hour, went through the footage, made sure I had everything saved twice, once to the cloud, once to an encrypted folder. I don't know why. Maybe because I didn't trust myself not to accidentally delete it in a moment of weakness. Back at my own hotel room, I just stood there for a long time, staring out at the Vegas skyline, wondering what was happening across the street. I wasn't naive anymore. I didn't need explanations. I didn't need excuses. I had facts. The next morning, I checked out early and walked straight into the lobby of the Amora Grande. I waited near the elevators, right by the coffee bar, and sure enough, around 10:30, they came down together. Madison looked fresh-faced, not a trace of guilt. Wearing one of her, I just woke up like this, smiles and a long linen cardigan I had never seen before. He walked beside her, a coffee in hand, free arm draped loosely around her shoulder. They looked comfortable, like this wasn't their first morning after. Then it happened. A woman walked past, probably a hotel staffer or concierge, and glanced at them, then at me, then back at Madison. Something about her expression told me she recognized Madison, that she knew who I was, that she had seen too much. As they walked toward the front doors, I watched from behind a column. I didn't approach them, not yet, but I followed them from a distance. They hailed a rideshare, got in together, gone. I didn't chase. I waited, because sometimes the most powerful move is knowing when not to act. Later that day, I ran her name through the hotel's online reservation system. She had used E. Halden again for the honeymoon dates. 2 weeks from now, the week we were supposed to be married. Same suite block, different purpose. I checked the messages on her laptop, synced to our shared calendar. One message stood out. A saved draft in her notes app addressed to M. Not me, different M. The details aligned with the guy from the pool. She had told him she was in transition, that she was navigating a complicated family arrangement, that she didn't owe anyone anything right now. And that was it. That was the final thread. There was no way to interpret this as anything other than what it was. She wasn't confused. She wasn't being tempted. She was gone. I've never been a fan of public scenes. Even as a kid, I was the one stepping between arguing classmates, smoothing things over, playing diplomat. I hated the idea of confrontation, the idea of putting your pain out where everyone could see it like some kind of performance. But that morning, as I stood in the lobby of the Amora Grande Hotel, I knew I didn't have a choice. Madison had no idea I was still in Vegas. She had no idea I'd seen them at the pool, followed them through the elevator corridor, watched them walk hand in hand into a suite that was booked under an alias she thought I'd never notice. And now, she had no idea that I had planned a very different kind of reception than the one she was expecting. I stood near the concierge desk, feigning interest in brochures for Cirque du Soleil and desert tours. The lobby was buzzing. Guests checking in, families dragging luggage, couples holding hands. Normal people, happy people, people not about to watch a car crash in slow motion. At 11:12 a.m., she walked in. Alone this time. She wore an oversized white sweater, sandals, and sunglasses on her head like some Instagram influencer on a skincare retreat. She looked rested, like free, like someone who had no idea gravity was about to catch up to her. I didn't approach her right away. I waited until she was in line at the coffee bar. She stood there scrolling on her phone, completely at ease, unaware of how little time she had left to control the narrative. I walked up slowly. She didn't notice me until I was standing right beside her. Then she jumped. "Evan." Her voice cracked in disbelief. Her hand froze mid-scroll. I didn't say anything. I just looked at her. And in that silence, she saw everything. Her eyes flicked to the side, probably searching for a lie that could still save her. Then she smiled nervously, the way people do when they're caught in a bad dream they think they can still charm their way out of. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "Same question," I said calmly. "Thought you were with Carly and Brittany." Her face faltered, but only for a second. I am. They just left early. You know how Carly gets with flights. Early birds." I didn't respond. Instead, I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and showed her a still frame. The pool. Her. The man. His hand on her hip. Her smile. I didn't need to say anything. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. She blinked. Once. Twice. Then looked around as if realizing people were watching. "Evan," she said quietly, voice trembling now. "Can we talk somewhere private?" I shook my head. "You want to do this in private?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "After all the lies? After disappearing for a weekend to a hotel you booked under an alias? After using our honeymoon week to sneak away with someone else?" "Please," she whispered. "This isn't what you think." "You were kissing him at the pool," I said, holding my tone steady. "You entered the suite with him. You used the same dates we planned for our honeymoon. You've been using that same alias for weeks." Her lip quivered. A few people nearby had stopped what they were doing. Not enough to form a crowd, but enough to create tension. People pretending not to look, but listening just the same. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she said, barely audible. "I swear. It just happened." "Did he know you were engaged?" I asked. She froze. I leaned in just enough so only she could hear me. "Because he didn't yesterday. And he sure as hell didn't know your real name." Her face went pale. I stepped back. And then, like divine timing, he walked in. Mr. Poolside. Same sunglasses. Same relaxed posture. He spotted her and raised a hand in greeting. Oblivious. Until he saw me. I turned to him. "Hey," I said casually. "Quick question. Did you know she's engaged?" He looked at me, then at her, then back at me. Madison tried to cut in. "Evan, stop." No, I said, stepping aside. "Let him answer." The guy's face shifted from amused to confused to something like horror. "I what?" he asked. "We're supposed to be getting married in 2 weeks," I said. "She's been planning the whole thing while flying out here under a fake name and charging suites to the joint wedding account." Madison started to cry. The man took a full step back. I didn't know," he stammered, looking at her like she had grown 2 heads. "You said you weren't in a relationship." I didn't tell you everything," Madison choked out. "But it's complicated." "No," he said, voice hardening. "No, you lied." He looked at me again. "I'm sorry, man. I didn't know. I swear." I nodded once. "You do now." He turned and walked out without another word. Madison stood there shaking. The barista called out a name, hers. No one moved to claim the drink. "I was going to end it," she said, reaching for me. "I just needed space. I was going to call off the wedding. I stepped back again. "Don't," I said. "Don't make this about fear or confusion or needing space. You weren't in therapy. You weren't soul-searching. You were cheating. You lied to his face and mine and everyone else's." Tears streamed down her face. The sound in the lobby continued. Coffee orders, suitcase wheels dragging, elevator chimes. But around us, it felt like everything had slowed down, like a camera pulling focus. Then I said it. "It's over, Madison. The wedding's canceled. The vendors have already been notified. You don't need to pretend anymore." She blinked rapidly. "You what?" "You used the honeymoon dates to book this trip. Did you think I wouldn't notice?" Did you really think you'd slide into a new life without anyone asking questions? She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Check your inbox, I added. I forwarded everything to your bridesmaids. The hotel receipts, the pictures, the messages you left on the shared calendar under your pseudonym. A moment of silence passed. She stared at me, like she was trying to calculate how much damage had already been done. You can lie to yourself, I said, but don't expect me to help anymore. Then I turned and walked out of the hotel. I didn't look back. I always thought if something like this ever happened, if a relationship broke apart, it would just be between two people. Me and her. That's it. But I was wrong. When a lie that big comes to light, it doesn't just burn the bridge between you and the person who told it. It scorches everything around it. Friends, family, plans, memories. All of it goes up in smoke. The morning after the hotel lobby confrontation, I sat at a small cafe 2 blocks off the strip, sipping bad coffee and staring at my phone. I hadn't slept. My mind was buzzing with everything I still had to do. Cancel vendors, stop payments, notify guests. But what kept gnawing at me, more than any of the logistics, was the question. How much did everyone else know? That was the part one couldn't shake. The silence. The way her bridesmaids had tiptoed around things the last few months. The way her mom kept saying, Madison's just got a lot on her plate. Anytime I brought up how detached she'd been, I knew she'd been lying to me, but had she been lying to everyone? Or had some people just chosen to look the other way? I started with the wedding group chat. I sent a short message, clear, not dramatic. Hi all. The wedding is canceled. Please don't reach out to Madison about this. Any questions? Send them my way. Thank you for respecting the decision. I attached a *T of the hotel charges and a still from the video. Not explicit, just enough to make it undeniable. Then I turned my phone off. Not 10 minutes later, it started vibrating nonstop. Calls, messages, notifications flooding in. I let it sit for an hour before turning it back on. I didn't respond to everyone. I didn't have the energy. But a few of the replies stood out. 2 of Madison's bridesmaids, Alicia and Joe, sent me private messages. Long ones. Alicia's started with, Evan, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it had gotten this far. She went on to explain that Madison had been acting weird for a while, canceling dress fittings, dodging group chats, even tried to change the Bachelorette weekend plans at the last minute, saying a friend from out of town might swing by. Alicia hadn't thought much of it, just figured Madison was overwhelmed. But then she dropped something that made my stomach twist. When I got the invite to the Bachelorette, the email wasn't from her real name. It came from Ihalden@ProtonMail. Calm. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but now it makes sense. Joe sent me *TS. Turns out, the Bachelorette party wasn't a girls' trip, like she'd claimed. It was a full co-ed penthouse party. Invites, private pool access, bottle service, the whole thing. And the invite, it hadn't gone out from Madison's main account. Came from that same pseudonym alias. Worse, Madison had curated the guest list herself. Sent it directly. Picked who to include and who to keep out. No Carly. No Brittany. Just a few old college friends, some randoms, and yes, the guy from the pool. In one *T, Joe messaged her asking why she hadn't included certain names. Madison replied, It's not that kind of party. Just want it to be easier. Easier. Everything suddenly clicked. She'd been running 2 versions of her life side by side, one for public display, and one for escape. And she used that alias like a switch. Wedding Madison. Vegas Madison. She could flip between them like it was nothing. I also got a message from the venue coordinator Miriam. We'd been working with her for nearly 8 months. She was calm, respectful, and patient throughout the entire process. Even when Madison would reschedule or ghost meetings last minute. Now she had a bombshell of her own. Hi Evan. I'm sorry to hear about the cancellation. I wanted to make you aware that Madison contacted me last week about repurposing part of your wedding deposit for another event. She said it was a branded private engagement and asked if we could transfer the balance toward a future booking. She never mentioned you. I flagged it as suspicious and didn't act, but I thought you should know. A branded private engagement. I stared at those words for a long time. It wasn't just an affair. She had been laying the groundwork to erase me. Maybe not officially, but socially. Quietly. Behind the scenes. Even as I was reworking our seating chart, updating RSVP counts, and double-checking tux orders, she had been redirecting vendors under a fake name for a new life I wasn't supposed to be part of. I called Miriam, thanked her, and asked her to freeze all transactions related to our account. She agreed, said I deserved better. Everyone I spoke to said the same thing. You didn't deserve this. You were blindsided. You handled it with grace. But their sympathy didn't ease the burn. Not when I realized how long the lie had been building. The worst of it came when I notified Madison's mom. It wasn't about shaming her daughter. I didn't send **TS or accusations. I just told her the wedding was off and that I hoped, for her sake, she'd have the space to talk to Madison about it directly. She didn't sound surprised. She sounded tired, almost resigned. That's when it hit me. Maybe she knew something too. Maybe not the full extent, but enough to feel it unraveling. Enough to guess where her daughter was headed and choose not to interfere. Everyone, it seemed, had seen something, but no one said a word. Later that afternoon, I sat at my kitchen table and drafted one last email to all our vendors. Photographer, caterer, florist, cake designer, DJ, planner. I canceled everything. Clean, professional, no drama, just the facts. I requested refunds where possible. Ate the deposits where I had to. It felt like watching 8 months of effort vanish with the click of a mouse. Madison didn't respond to any of it. Not to the texts. Not to the calls from friends. Not even to her mother, who later called me and left a voicemail saying, "I've tried, Evan. She won't talk. She's not ready to face it yet." Fine. Let her sit in the silence. Let her live in the reality she built without me. By the end of that weekend, word had spread. The friend group that had once orbited around our engagement fractured. People picked sides. Or more accurately, they picked absence. No one rushed to defend her. No one made excuses. She disappeared from the wedding group chat. Unfriended people quietly. And no one asked her why. They didn't need to. They saw it. They believed it. And they distanced themselves without a scene, without a public dragging, without a final verdict. Just space. Empty air. And that, in its own way, was louder than anything I could have said.